Hi, Larissa. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm excited to be here and really to celebrate the mothers in retail that we're looking at this month and really trying to highlight the leaders that we work with that have built retail careers at the same time have raised one or more children. And it's a pleasure to have you be here. And we know that we've worked with Core, which is the largest franchise, one of the largest franchises of Planet Fitness. So we're really pleased that we've done a lot of leadership training with you and worked with you specifically and your team there to bring the training to your store leaders and to your district leaders. So, what I'd like to first off do is just have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your career, but also a little bit about your home life and the children that you have, because I know that it's when we first met, I guess it's been a little over 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, you were about 7 months pregnant. So that's what made me think of you this time and for this interview. So Larissa, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mary Beth. So I'm Larissa. I've been with Core for almost 10 years now, which is crazy to think about. So things have definitely changed with me having two children. So I have a 2-year-old and an 18-month-old. So it's a lot of chaos at home, keeps me busy, keeps me on my toes. But it's just been exciting to learning to balance work and having children, and then being able to partner with more for all of this leadership training. So it's been a great time.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's fantastic. Tell me a little bit, how because this has been, really the last 3 or 4 years, you have children under 5 years old, 4 years old, really. How did you navigate? How have you been navigating the early stages of motherhood while managing the demands? As we said, we've rolled out a lot of leadership training, but I know you're doing other training at Planet Fitness Core as well. So how did you really navigate of balancing that motherhood and running the training department?
Yeah, absolutely. I always love to be transparent because there are so many people that go through this transition. So it definitely was really hard at first. Understanding how to take care of me was a big priority so I can take care of other people. So the transition was definitely challenging, but a huge learning experience. And now being able to just show both the girls what success looks like, even though we're busy all the time and there's so many things to think about. It's just been a phenomenal change in my leadership and just how I interact with people, how I take care of people, and how I take care of myself.
Oh, that's great. And you're right. Having two girls, you're the role model for them. So as they start growing up, they know that mommy is the one that's balanced a lot in life. What have been some of the pivotal moments where were they most influenced by your experience as a mother that you were able to bring to the job, that maybe some lessons you learned through motherhood that you're able to apply to your role in leadership at Core?
Yeah, as a training manager working with so many different leaders, we talk a lot about leadership traits, what's important and what gets you results, right? That's what we all want at the end of the day are those results. And I've always been really transparent on my lack of empathy sometimes and my drive to get the job done. So I think that's been like the biggest revolutionary change for me is that empathy really growing to lengths that I didn't think were possible before because it's all perspective, right? Remembering who's at home, remembering that others have people at home that also impact their mood, the way they come into work, the way they learn. So I think just seeing the bigger picture was one of the biggest takeaways for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's absolutely. I was going to say, is you does broaden your perspective of what's going on that. So, what advice would you give to women in retail who are currently building their careers and, raising children at the same time, striving to grow a career at the same time, try to do a good job, a really good job at raising and growing a family at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. Because juggling both can be really difficult. Some days are easier or harder than others. I think my biggest piece of advice is just remembering your own integrity and remembering that you're doing it all for you as well. Because I think it's really easy to miss that perspective. You know, you're doing everything for everyone at work, you're doing everything for everyone at home. Where's the me time? And that for me was a really big shift, is really making sure that when I come to work, I'm doing the job that makes me happy, I'm giving the work that makes me happy, while still getting results and getting the job done. And then also just remembering that those little ones at home always miss you, and, you know, making the fun time extra fun. So the time that I do have with the girls at night or first thing in the morning, my priorities is just to make it as fun as possible so that they remember those times, not necessarily when mommy was away at work. But
No, absolutely. And I love the fact, you start off, you have to be transparent, you want to be real, and because it's not easy. It's not
oh
easy
yeah.
in any career, I think, working, and being able to balance, because it's not like just you have the role at core and you have the role of motherhood. You're a wife, you have a partner at home that that you need to really kind of keep that relationship going, and also you guys are both sharing responsibilities of parenting. We're going to highlight the men next month on Father's Day, so I don't want to take some of their thunder away, but yeah, it takes, as a phrase is, it takes a village, but it takes a lot of support. And I know that you drop your children off at daycare, right? Is that when you come to work? So yeah, you got to depend on other people to help you in that. But I think most important, what you said is, it's not just, it's mother, wife, leader, but it's for you. What do you want to, how do you make yourself happy too, and make sure that you find that time for you? That's got to be a tough one to balance. Very much.
Absolutely. And to your point, I'm really lucky to have my village. My mom watches the girls, so I'm super lucky to
Good.
have them in a place where I feel really great leaving them every day. And to your point, yes, it takes a little bit of everyone to get us to the end zone here.
No, absolutely, and you're right. And that, so, your mom gets a nice special thank you this Mother's Day too, this Sunday. Um, have you ever felt it difficult, or you had to make some choices between career and family? I know you took the time, which I think is good, right after you had the baby, to bond and to make sure that you were well and the baby was well before turning to work. But how did you make some of those decisions, that we can all learn from, making and balancing? Sometimes I got to choose my career and sometimes I have to choose to be with my family. What were some of the difficult decisions maybe you've made in the last 3 years with two children?
Yeah, that's a great call out, because boundary setting was something that was a little challenging for me. And as you have little ones and you're not sleeping very good, all of those things kind of come into play. So I think that was my biggest transition, was really setting concrete boundaries with some of my leaders that I worked with, helping them understand, some of the challenges and some of the things I'm having a hard time with coming back to work, especially when some of those meetings run a little later than you planned and you're maybe missing dinner. So those things were really just, making sure the boundary was there and helping them understand that, I'm not trying to be a little difficult. I'm trying to make sure I'm the best you. Well, I'm sorry, I'm the best me for
Me.
you in those meetings. So I
Sure.
think that was probably the biggest and toughest transition for me. But coming back to work, it was transparent that sometimes you had to pick family a little bit more than before.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what balances you, right? And becomes you, because without, if you have that stress, that's going to affect your work, right? You need to have those boundaries and feel good about them. So I think that's great.
Absolutely.
As we conclude, you know, what can retail organizations today and better support, what can they do to better support working mothers and leadership? Not so much, you've kind of been through this in the last 3 years, and I know CORE is a great organization, but what else do you think just globally in the retail industry that, that would be helpful to mothers who are building their retail career at the same time they are raising children?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, taking some of my more training, really making sure we're listening to learn. And that starts with you as well, listening to yourself, listening to maybe some of the behavior changes that you notice in yourself with the extra stressors that you didn't have before. And really just taking that time to also ask what's offered at your organization, ask for what's out there to support you as a mom. I think that was something that I really leaned on as well, is just really partnering with our HR team and understanding, how my leave works, how maybe I can use some of it later, how I can set myself up for success with the tools they already have in place. But then for all the moms, I would really just recommend being patient with yourself. You're finding out who you are all over again. And that can be really hard when you become a mom, figuring out who you are, when you're that person, when you're not that person, and making sure again that you're just happy with who you are and who you're becoming as a new mom, and accepting that things are going to change. Change, right, is the hardest thing for any human being. So being patient and a little lenient with yourself for a little while.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. And I really appreciate our time today because for me, I built my career and was climbing and didn't take the time to stop and build a family. And I didn't get married till 40. And then all of a sudden I realized there's another person I have to consider. I can't just get up and go. So I really admire all women who are doing it all and really being able to balance it all. And I think that organizations, being aware, I think these are great advice that I'm getting from you and other retailers this month to kind of help us out with navigating through this to make it easier for everybody and make everybody bring their whole self to work and be able to be their most productive at work. So I really appreciate our time today. And I just want to take the time to wish you a very happy Mother's Day, Larissa.
Thank you so much. And always appreciate the opportunity. And Moore is one of our favorite trainers. So I'm happy to get the word out.
Well, we're glad that we're raving fans, and that you're a raving fan of ours because we're a raving fan of yours as well. So thank you so much for your time and happy Mother's Day.